Hello and welcome to the 51st Everybody Dice podcast, where we're going to be talking about our board game related New Year's resolutions. I am Steve, and today I am joined by
Daryl.
Iain.
There we go. Today we're going to be talking about everything board game and tabletop related. Wow, that was
Genuinely, my brain collapsed. I was like, well, I better wait for Daryl to go first, as per usual, and then, oh yeah, Daryl's gone.
Better go on.
Great.
The good thing is the way that I always do this is having your guys' portraits appearing as you're saying your names. So there's going to be a massive gap between Daryl appearing on screen and you appearing on screen. Oh, well. How are you guys? Anyway, this is kind of the first proper podcast we've done since the new year, so... How are you doing?
I would say, carrying on.
Yeah.
Just about alive.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll start things off by talking about what's been going on with us recently. The Root Clockwork expansion review should be up on our YouTube channel right now. Just search for Everybody Dice on YouTube and you'll be able to find it. I imagine you're actually watching this on the channel right now, if you're watching through YouTube. I always get mixed up with the whole this also goes on SoundCloud, so people may not necessarily be on YouTube thing. Oh no, something I just forget.
Yeah.
We're also... I know we've brought this up several times now, but I have been working a lot on some Twitch stuff as well. So we may be planning on doing something on there sometime soon. It may possibly just be me streaming by myself, but we'll just see how things go, I suppose. But you can find that channel over at twitch.tv/everybodydice, and hopefully we'll have some stuff starting up on there fairly soonish. Apart from that, I suppose we dive straight into what we've been playing. So you'd imagine we'd have tons to talk about here because it's been a while since we've done this. But in fact, there's actually been relatively little going on. We still had to cut back a few things, but like over Christmas and stuff like that, the only game I played was Uno with my parents, and that was it. I mean, a few quick games of that, and nothing else really. I don't know what you guys... Did you guys get any chance to play anything over Christmas at all? I might take that as a no.
No.
Okay, yeah, so really just a classic game. I don't think I really need to explain what Uno is, really.
I feel like most people should know.
Yeah, everyone plays it differently. Like, I think people are more aware of what the rules are now, thanks to how popular it's gotten with like the online app version of it. But the amount of people that used to play with some of those house rules, like in a regular game of Uno, and thought it was the actual way to play it, like take drawing cards until you have one that you can play, for example, rather than just taking one. There's a lot of people that thought that was just a standard rule. And, oh man, there's other ones as well. Oh, the being able to follow when someone plays a +2 card as well.
That is a rule.
And then the next person then can play a +2 and it stacks.
That is a rule.
It isn't. It's
Yes,
not
it is.
actually in the standard rules.
Yes, it is.
On the app version,
Yes,
you have to set it as a house rule.
No, it's a rule.
It's not.
It is a rule.
100%. I've even read through all the rules in my little Uno thing, and it's not in there.
Here's the deal, Steve. I don't care how
Yep.
right you are. It's a rule.
It's not. It's a house rule, and that's it.
It's a out rule. It's all
Find it in the official rules for
you
me,
join
and
us
I
now.
will take it.
40 hours in, after Iain and Steve have argued. It's not. It is. It's not. It is.
It is, though.
But yeah. But this is the thing. There are loads of rules that people think are common rules in a game of Uno, and they just aren't. But there are tons of house rules that people have added in over time, and it's become almost like this whole thing where people think it's a rule,
The
and it's
fact
not.
that you can play Uno on the Uno app and it allows you to do that.
By setting it as a house rule. You actually have to go into the house rules, and then
allows, and therefore it's a form of the game. and is therefore.
However, if you buy a copy of Uno and look in the rules, there is nothing there to say about
doing
it.
That? Losers.
People that are buying the game for the first time.
I'm thinking, right, in
here
a
we go.
post-apocalyptic universe,
Yeah.
it's like the Wild West, right? Everything's a desert. I like the idea that every saloon you walk into with your fucking laser pistols and your backwards cap, which is the equivalent of like the cowboy hat of the era, and you walk into every bar. Every bar has a slightly different game of Uno.
I think that's kind of how it is. I think, like I say, all the house rules you actually find in the Uno app, they are all rules that I think some people at some point have thought was a standard rule in the game, hence why they've been added into the app version of it.
This is my point, is that I'm willing to accept any rules in Uno. Like, it's
rules.
just a complete mess, and I like
It
that it's
is
a complete mess.
It's such a, like, have you ever tried doing it with all the house rules on?
It's horrendous. The one with
It never ends.
The sevens and zeros and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
oh no! It just wants
It's the
everything
one-
all the time. It's great.
The
I love
one,
it.
the one that does destroy the game is the fact that you have to draw a card and then keep drawing cards until you have one you can play.
Yeah.
So you can go from having one card and pretty much be on the verge of ending the game to having 20 cards in your hand because you just kept drawing cards because there was nothing to play. It's absolutely crazy.
So me and Ree used to do that. We used to play Uno on the PS4 and set every
Yeah.
house rule on, and then just scream at each other
Yeah, pretty much.
for just 4 hours before one of us eventually threatened to go down to like Uno HQ and burn their building down.
Wow.
I think there was a point where like I tabbed out to look up where the HQ was. It's Mattel. It's owned by Mattel. I looked up where Mattel's headquarters were and where their office building was, so I could go burn it down with all the stuff inside.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's the best bit about the game, in my opinion.
Okay, fair enough.
Wow. Okay, yeah.
So with that,
Yeah.
I feel like we've talked enough about Uno, and it's time to move over into Ian's RPG corner, which I wish I had an on-screen splash for, but
Hang on, I'm just gonna wheel myself. I'm in the corner now. Hi, this is my RPG corner. It's real cramped, and there's a curtain in my face. We did D&D, lots of D&D over Christmas, despite me not chirping up when I said that we played anything. Played quite a lot of D&D.
I think it's because you knew we were going to talk about it later.
Exactly. I'm going to just summarise it. We got in an argument with some people, and now we're in Avernus. That's hell for those who aren't versed in it. We got in an argument with some people, and our DM took us to hell.
Oh, okay.
I'm perfectly okay with that because my character is from hell. Everybody else is slightly concerned, and we've got a giant floating pink elephant as a companion.
Oh, God.
Wow.
Where's that come from?
This is lifted directly from the Descent to Avernus campaign.
Oh, right, yeah.
So it's actually a character that the D&D people put into this campaign. It's the worst. I hate it.
Is it quite literally the Jar Jar Binks of...
It is very Jar Jar Binks.
Oh, God, okay.
Kat lost her pet because she's a ranger. She gets a pet, and it's been replaced by an infernal goose.
An infernal goose?
She has an
I mean, that sounds amazing.
Her current pet is a flaming, angry goose.
Oh, that sounds great.
That's been the highlight. It's her just befriending a goose. It's great.
Can she control it, or has it just got its own kind of agenda?
But we sort of mix and match it depending on how we're feeling on the day, because she
Brilliant.
can directly control it if she wants to, but in combat, she doesn't. There's no point in her just ordering the goose like a Pokemon battle.
Yeah.
So she just, it's good. Star Wars wise, don't know where we were at last. Did I tell you about Rick Astley?
No.
No. You'll be able to watch it one day, maybe. But we took Rick Astley on his galaxy-wide tour, but smuggled contraband inside his ship as we did so, and sold the contraband at the end.
I'm glad you said ship.
Amazing.
Yeah, we didn't hide the contraband inside Galactic Rick Astley.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah, that's the sort of gist, but obviously that'll eventually be watchable, so I won't go into too much detail. The actual campaign I wanted to talk about was Call of Cthulhu. Which,
Okay.
We're playing Pulp Cthulhu, which is more of a action style version of the game. Obviously, we've all played the version where everything's very crippling,
Carry out an
and
investigation and...
Yeah, everything is hard. Taking a step forward sometimes requires a roll and then you die. It's just punishing. This one is sort of like you are Indiana Jones style people doing Indiana Jones stuff. So, did I talk about this last time? I feel like I might have covered it slightly.
I don't think you did, no.
Okay.
Bear in mind, it was mid-November last time we talked about anything like... Sorry, mid-December
Sure.
last time we talked about anything like this, but...
So I'm
I'm pretty
playing,
sure we did.
go on.
I'm playing a World War One British soldier who went AWOL during a campaign in Africa, and has spent his time as like hunting. He's basically a bounty hunter that like travels around colonial Africa. I think Derry is playing a Russian mechanic.
Wow.
With voice and everything. It's been great.
Amazing.
Phil is DMing. Cine is playing the suavest bisexual you'll ever meet.
Oh god.
Who's a spy who goes by the name Colonel Mustard. He's like think Lando Calrissian style suaveness and like the cape and just vibes that sort of like I will mate with anything. And then Andy's playing his sidekick, which is like a 14-year-old boy with telekinetic powers.
Oh my god.
It's just
Why?
so funny. Like and all of Andy's role playing is like, I'll get that for you, Mr. Mustard. Don't worry. And it's just it's perfect. But first, we've gone to South America to sort of get some artifacts. We've done some weird stuff like killing a Cthulhu monster at the bottom of a pit. I think we killed a couple of Cthulhu monsters at the bottom of a pit, and it's opened up a temple for us to enter. We went into the temple. We've gone through a series of traps. I think Colonel Mustard and Ivan, the Russian guy, have got like scales now. Not all over them, but they got hit by like a reptile ray, and now they have like scales on their arm or something. A bit weird. But we looted the temple after fighting a massive snake. My character panicked and point blanked it with a Luger 5 times in like the eye. And crit it like 3 times in a row. Just went, just shot it and somehow crit it like 3 times in the face in the first round. And then it was just chasing me around the room while I shot a Luger at it. It's great.
I've got very like 1950s action movie rubber puppets vibes out of this.
Yeah, I mean, I would compare it to Raiders of the Lost Ark or maybe Temple of Doom. Temple of Doom's probably closer.
Yeah.
There's enough mystical stuff going on that it's like, ooh, but not loads, so it's not like overplayed. And the characters are they're all very fun. I've enjoyed it a lot. It's much more fun than normal Cthulhu, which feels like a constant uphill struggle.
Right.
Whereas this feels like a fun campaign with a bit more depth and a bit more story. And it's not like we've not all got like backup characters. It isn't like, oh, I'm sure at one point Eddie will buckle to crippling depression and I'll have to choose a new character. It's more like, okay, these characters are meant to last. It's supposed to be a thing where you do multiple missions, which is pretty cool.
I think that's one of the things is like Call of Cthulhu as the RPG has got a reputation of being a meat grinder.
Yeah.
100% it has that reputation. You don't really make characters with the thought that they're actually going to survive it, usually,
Yeah.
from what I understand. So,
Yeah, I mean, Pulp Cthulhu sort of changes that slightly, and it's sort of like, you are the hero of the story.
Yeah.
Which is nice, and it's sort of like janky, like rubbishy film, like great but bad film vibes.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you are the Nicolas Cage in National Treasure. You are the Indiana Jones. You are you're that character, and you have those characters around you that are just capable of doing ridiculous things. But there is still that element where it's Cthulhu and stuff can go wrong, which is great. Like, I pulled out a sniper rifle and kneecapped two, I want to say they're Chilean soldiers, and just blew their kneecap straight off, and it was great. And then a monkey attacked us with a pistol that shoots fireballs. And, whilst I was climbing a tree, and I had to punch this monkey in the face whilst climbing in a tree to stop it shooting me with a fireball pistol. And it's just silly little things like that just made it great. We tortured a man for information who, after about 20 minutes of torturing, we realised he'd been hypnotised and was unable to tell us anything. That was awkward, as the locals watched. But yeah, it's been a great campaign so far. My character has like an underlying story where he's actually hunting someone for someone, and this was his in, but he's ended up getting a job for this corporation that collects the arcane, which is cool. But we're awaiting our next session. We were supposed to do it last week, but we had some things get in the way, so we are awaiting to see what happens. But we completed our first one by fighting the snake. There's supposed to be a mummy in there that we're supposed to recover, but we couldn't find it, or it wasn't there. We're not sure which. But I think that's the way it's being played. Is it's not one of those campaigns where it's like, you failed to do this. It is, we've done a bunch of stuff, and it's like, so do we know what happened? No.
Yeah.
It's like it's not like all is revealed. Your characters wouldn't know that, so you don't know, which is nice. It sort of makes it feel like you're achieving. You get set goals and you achieve stuff, and it's not like, oh, there are 3 rooms you didn't go across. Do you want to go back in? No, we wouldn't know that, so we don't. Which is fun. It's been nice.
Ah, good. Okay, moving on. We had a Zoom night the other night. We played several games, all through basically browser-based games and stuff like that. I'll probably get into more about that a little bit later when we talk about our main topic, but played a few games on there. We'll go through a few of them. I want to start off talking about Deception, Murder in Hong Kong, because I really want to play this. Like, out of all of the games we played, this is the one I really want to play again, but I want to play on the other side this time. So, Deception, Murder in Hong Kong is a game where everyone is playing as crime scene investigators, and one person is playing as a silent forensic expert. It's kind of themed a bit weird, I will say, because it actually turns out that one of the investigators is also a murderer, and everyone has these pieces of evidence that they have in front of them. They each have 4 weapons and then 4 clues in front of them. Whoever's playing as the silent forensics expert knows who the murderer is out of them and has conversed with them, and they basically give them 1 weapon and 1 clue that ties into how the crime was committed, and then the forensics expert has to place a number of tokens on a number of clue cards to say what happened at this murder scene. So they may say, for example, there was bruising on the body, or there is... I think in the case that we had, in the one we did, there was ink on the floor. So, kind of like the nature of it was there was a piece of artistic evidence on the floor or something like that. With the caveat being that you play through 3 rounds. At the end of each round, you have to take away one of the clues that you've given them if you're playing as the forensics expert, and have to replace it with something else. Everyone else will talk amongst themselves as to how they think it links into who with what items. which they have to guess by the end of the game, and each person gets 30 seconds where they're allowed to talk without any interruption from anyone else. I really liked this game. Really, really liked it.
I enjoyed it a lot as well. It was what I would describe as an argument game.
Yeah.
It always descends into just a couple of people who think it's the other people, and then people just going, no, it's you, isn't it, though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you were our murderer, Ian,
I was.
and you managed to get away with it as well.
Just about.
I think you got accused twice, didn't you? But they picked the wrong items, from what I believe.
That is true, yeah. So I didn't fully grasp. I don't learn games by listening to Steve. I learn by playing. That's not a diss on Steve. I struggle to maintain attention span, and without a frame of reference of actually playing the game, I struggle to do that. So once I got into the game, I realised I could have played more tactically with the items I picked, but
you can kind of look at the state of the board, can't you, and what everyone's got, and try and play items that you know are going to be able to tie down other people and muddy the waters a bit.
Sure, I could have set. So I actually ended up with quite a good one because Mike had a steel chain and office supplies.
Yes,
something like that.
yeah.
Daryl had muddy water and something else fairly artistic. I can't remember.
I think it was powder or something like that. Wasn't it, I
Powder,
think?
which could be paint powder or something. Basically, other people had stuff that I could basically palm off as saying that it was them. So I don't know if I actually managed to convince anyone, but I don't think anyone was so sure exactly what it was. I'll be honest though, looking at artistic supplies on mine and seeing ink, I was thinking that's fair. Once you picked me, that's fairly self-explanatory. And then the guys went about the rigmarole of saying, "Oh, he's got this, and this could be artistic," and I'm like, "Okay."
You get to play off that, don't you, when people make other suggestions as to what might be conceived as being that.
Trying to pin it on Daryl or Mike, because Phil had nothing that I could work with.
So
and then it got to the point where they were like, "Yeah, it's definitely Iain, but it's this or this," and no one said ink, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I don't know," and I was like, "Fuck yeah, you can pick me if you want, if you're going to pick those things." Cause...
So the thing that was going through my mind when I was playing as the forensics expert was next one of the other options in the same line where I picked artistic was written, and I was wondering whether some people might have thought, well, ink's more of a written thing.
Yeah, but then they had office supplies as well.
Yeah, I think that was the thing. Is I was thinking if I'd picked written, it could have been anything with any text-based kind of like pages in or anything like that, or like you said, the office supplies as well. And I just thought, I think ink speaks to me as more artistic than written. But I could see how that could make things confusing.
I would disagree and say it's more written than artistic. But with whatever else was on the field, you 100% picked the right thing.
Yeah, it was kind of like, I think the one which I was really, because like I say, you always take away one item between rounds, and you always replace it with something else. So in other words, you take out the stuff that you feel is throwing people off a bit more and replace it with something else. And the thing which I left on for the entirety, because I knew Iain was making the argument, because the cause of death was suffocation, and he kept going to, it could be the muddy waters.
Yeah,
so
I deliberately left in the bruising.
So this was the thing.
No one to the last round, and I was like,
no one said anything.
If we're all going to ignore that, then that's fine.
So he kept going. I think it's easily could be the muddy water, and I'm like, yeah, but it says bruising. Oh yeah. Oh, it could be the muddy water.
To be honest, then that is possibly on you because you should have said something.
No, I said it towards the end, and I was like, but because I knew it wasn't me.
You
so I was just like,
that until after like 3 rounds, you didn't defend the bruising at all, and like if it weren't for the fact that Mike was just set on picking me anyway, because Phil was a bit unsure.
Yeah,
I think between the lot of it was the only one that realistically didn't have anything that could have done it was Phil's, because the only thing he had artistic was like a sculpture. But then it was whether or not he used an item to strangle them, like the umbrella or something like that. But I think
if he'd killed someone with an umbrella, Steve would have picked something that wasn't strangle.
It would have been like bludgeoning or something like that.
Or insertion.
It didn't say. Oh god.
Insertion followed by activation.
Jesus.
But I think either way, the thing that's really cool about this is what at first can seem like a shoo-in very quickly descends into unclear information when everyone starts making suggestions about what it could be. Like at first, like in the first round, straight away I thought, "Yep, got this, nailed it. This surely can only be Iain." Although there were suggestions that it could have been Mike as well. I thought, yes, this is pretty much perfect for it. And it quickly, when people start making suggestions, it's a bit similar in a way to Mysterium.
Yeah.
In that when you start hearing other people making other suggestions, and then other people start jumping onto that suggestion, and you just quickly start going, "Oh god, I've made horrible mistakes," but you can't let them know it, which is really, really cool.
If it's any consolation, I think everybody else played badly. I don't think it was a reflection on you. Once I realised what had happened, I was like, this is going to be hard for me to win. And then it just turns out that people weren't that bothered about winning. Then they're happy to make dumb choices.
So when I've seen games of this being played before, what's really interesting is because you, as the forensics expert, you're trying to tell a story through the bits that you're choosing. And I think when people understand the game a bit more, they start trying to link those things you've put on the board together into a story. So they'll start telling stories about how, well, I think I can see how such and such walked into the room and was furious with such and such because they did such and such, and then smacked them with the such and such. And, lots of such and suches, I suppose.
Inserted the such and such and activated the such and such.
Yeah. And at which point, everyone's kind of like going back and forth with how they perceive the story of what happened. And sometimes that can make for a really cool game of Deception Hong Kong. But it's a game that I've had on my radar for a long time. And although I don't have a physical copy of it yet, but I do plan on changing that. It's just unavailable everywhere right now. I'm looking forward to playing a lot more games of that. Final thoughts from you guys?
I'd like to play it again.
Yeah, I'd like to give it a go. Probably try it on the other side, like you say, just to experience it a bit like Mysterium.
Yeah.
The platform.
Yeah. Hopefully we can figure out a way to switch things around next time. Right, next one I'm going to talk about is Secret Hitler, which we played. This is the game we played the most. I think mostly because the games were very short and snappy, so we could play quite a lot of them in one sitting. So Secret Hitler, you're either a fascist or you're a liberal. You have your roles and you keep them secret throughout the game, and it's about working out who are the fascists, who are the liberals, and hoping that if the fascists do get elected into power, that one of them isn't Hitler, because one person will be designated as Hitler for the round. It's kind of interesting because there is a little bit of luck involved in this game compared to other things like the Resistance, because every single round a president is elected, and then that president elects a chancellor, and they then pass 2 decrees to the chancellor out of 3 that they drew from the hand of decrees, the deck of decrees, should I say. The Chancellor then selects one of the 2. They simply will either say liberal or fascist. They'll play it, and then the group discusses. And then it moves on to the next round with the next president, again voting in a Chancellor, and so on and so forth. But should Hitler ever be elected into being Chancellor after the 3rd fascist decree has been passed, then the fascists automatically win. The liberals need 5 decrees to pass in order to win. Then, accusations ensue. So what did you guys make of Secret Hitler?
So
I really enjoyed it.
I can only give feedback on one side of the game.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
As I never played a fascist once. I would say that I was an extremely effective
liberal.
Until Mike shot me in the head.
That was funny.
I just don't understand why he did it.
I love the fact that the
I
shots
don't
started
think
getting sent out.
I don't think that he could. There's nothing he could say to me now either to justify it. I just there was that moment where like I'd done absolutely nothing wrong, and we were discussing it, and he goes, "I'm going to shoot Iain," and I had maybe 3 seconds, and I just went, "Hang on." I sort of assumed he was joking, and I went, "No, hang on, what?" And then the thing came up saying, "You have been shot," and I was like, "What? Why?" What did...
So yeah,
I muted myself, and I was just rampaging. I was just like, "Why did he do that?" I had no thought that I could be like. I just remember watching the rest of the game, thinking, "Why would you cuck yourself so badly?"
So it is worth mentioning at this point that after the third fascist decree has been passed, the current president gets to look at the next 3 decrees that will be drawn. But after the 4th and 5th fascist decrees, they get to execute someone around the table. The president gets to execute someone around the table. And that's basically what happened there. We hit the 3rd fascist decree, and then Mike chose to shoot Iain, despite Iain very obviously being a liberal. But
I think what's fascinating about it is that I hadn't done anything wrong. I think someone had viewed the cards that was like 1 liberal and 2 fascist, and then I think I played a fascist policy.
Yeah.
Because I was given 2 fascist cards, and then as I was explaining it, he just flat out shot me in the head, and I was like, "Oh, what?"
Yeah. I mean,
he wasn't bad either, was he?
No, he wasn't. He was also a liberal.
It's amazing that he's made it this far in life.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Okay.
I don't think I've ever been so genuinely shocked by a decision in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was not
Either
expecting
way,
it.
I think one of the things I was going to say is I still don't feel like this is quite as good as the Resistance. I don't think.
I think it's shorter. Significantly shorter.
It is shorter, but I think there is also the whole thing of you can quite easily be just way out of luck in Secret Hitler and lose as well. Like, nothing down to skill or anything like that. If the fascist decrees have just been drawn in such a way, you can lose after 4 rounds as liberals and not have a clue who any of the fascists actually were. It is possible to have that happen.
I think another thing that's worth noting is the way the game plays doesn't necessarily lend itself to 5 players, because sometimes, and it happened to us a few times, some players just don't get to play. Because maybe the people who are liberal sort of figured out in their head who they trust and who they don't, and they just give the responsibility to those people backwards and forwards. And then there's one person, they could be liberal, but why take the chance?
Yeah, I think in actually that first game where you got shot, all I did in that game was I was president once, and
you
actually drew 3
cards, didn't you?
And I had genuinely, although I was a fascist, I genuinely received 3 fascist cards as my hand of cards. So I couldn't even try to blend in by playing 1 liberal and 1 fascist to you. It was just flat out, I could only pass you fascist cards. But where it was also our first game, it meant I was never voted in for Chancellor over the entire game as well. So I never got a chance to do anything else over the course of it. So that was, like I say, it was if that had been the other way around and I had been a liberal, that would have made the game very frustrating for me. Whereas I could understand, because I was actually a fascist in that one.
It's
I had no.
From what happened, you could easily have been either.
Yeah,
but I think that is the nature of the game, isn't it? So
it is. One of the things I did notice through playing it is, if you are a fascist but not Hitler, it actually benefits you if you play yourself as expendable. If you play that way, it's actually far more effective.
Hitler doesn't get shot.
exactly. So in other words, you don't vote in Hitler as your chancellor at any point. Just basically just to not give any information about him, let everyone else do that, basically. And when it comes down to it, you have to be the one where, even if it gives you away, play the fascist cards, and it doesn't matter if you're out in the open, because as soon as you're up to that third point, if they still have no idea who Hitler is, the game can be over in an instant. So that was quite interesting. From the fascist point of view, that's a nice little extra of, like, an extra gameplay element.
That did happen to us at one point, didn't it? We shot the fascist, or who we thought was the fascist, and then the next round we accidentally voted in Hitler.
That was with me.
Yeah.
Because I'd been playing liberal cards and staying very much... when I was Hitler, I played as a liberal and stuck to it even when it was less beneficial to the fascists to do so. But because we got over that mark of 3 fascist decrees going in, it meant the table still had no idea who Hitler actually was. So that's an interesting extra into it, because it's weird. It almost means you have to form a teamwork with the other fascists, because you can almost end up shooting yourself in the foot if you're... Because I did this a few times in the early games, where I wanted to stay in the game. So I carried on playing like I was a liberal despite being a fascist, and it was actually less beneficial to us.
I enjoyed
because
the round where Daryl was a fascist and he just put in the card to win for the liberals.
Was I...
Oh, yeah.
Was I the fascist, or was I the 4th fascist or something in this? Was that the one where I changed my name?
Well, the joke, you were called the 4th fascist as a name, but the joke was I hadn't been fascist for any of the games, so we'd play one more game and see what happened. And
you said you were going to play like one.
I said, I'm going to play as the 3rd fascist because this is ridiculous. If I end up being liberal. And then when the cards came out, I was like, no, because it'll disbalance the game, it'll make for a rubbish game, so I won't do it. But if I'd known that Daryl as a fascist was going to play as the 4th liberal, I probably would have done.
So the thing that got really weird
policies
was
left and right.
Who was it? I think it was someone put their name as like Iain is Hitler or something like that, or Iain is a fascist.
Yeah, yeah.
So I immediately saw that as Iain is Hitler on it, kind of thing. And I went, oh, fair enough. Iain is actually Hitler.
That doesn't excuse how many liberal policies you put through. It really doesn't. I don't know why that's your excuse.
No, wait, hold on. And then
to be honest, it would have worked if Daryl was Hitler. Like I say, trying to blend in as
he wasn't.
The liberal one. Yeah, I know. The fact that he wasn't was a bit, yeah. But anyway, I feel like we should move on at this point because we've still got a couple more things to go through. We also played Wits and Wagers online as well. Again, really enjoyed this one. I feel like I'm going to put links to all of these in the description down below as well, just in case you guys want to go off and try some of these games for yourself. Literally, all you need is Zoom or some form of conferencing software, something like that. And then one person can screen share everything to everyone else. It's really simple, really straightforward. I might talk a little bit more about it later. Anyway, Wits and Wagers, again, I thought this was a really, really good game.
It's a me game. It's one of those games that I benefit from just having random blobs of knowledge in my head.
Yeah, I would argue that having the knowledge isn't necessarily the most key thing to this game, necessarily. I suppose it is if you know you've got the right answer.
There were some
and you can put all your things on there.
Enough about that I made my bids based on that, and then once I had that early lead, I was just splashing money where I wanted, and I was never gonna... It was just me and Mike, wasn't it? We both got money very early, and we were just putting it wherever we wanted.
I had a lot up until the second from last round, but that was more based on where I was bidding more than anything else. You see, the idea of this game is it gives you a question with quite a broad answer to it. In that it will ask questions like one of the ones we had was how many different sports are played at the Olympic Games, for example. Everyone puts down a number that they think it is, and then it's arranged on a grid at the bottom of the screen. It's essentially, it applies odds to all the answers by how far apart they are. So the ones that are more similar to one another tend to be bunched in the centre and tend to pay out less. The ones that are more on the outside of things are put to the outside and generally have longer odds to them, meaning if other players want to put money on them, they can make more money off of them, basically. And if you decide to go below any of the answers, that pays out something like 6-1. It's got a massive payout to it. So once all the answers are arranged at the bottom of the screen, everyone at the beginning of the game has 2 $100 chips that they'll have throughout the entire game. They can place both of them on any of the answers on the board, but you can only ever pick 2 answers that are on that board. And then it's revealed who was the closest to the answer without going over, and whoever's bet on that one makes money. The person who got closest to the answer gets $100, and everyone else gets, well, however much they placed on it times the odds that are listed at the bottom. It makes it interesting because, as such, it means you can kind of give answers tactically to a point. Only because, obviously, with that smallest number payout down the bottom, sometimes you may want to think, well, I'm going to put quite a low answer because I think everyone else is going to go over, and I don't want to give anyone the opportunity to go for that smallest one down the bottom. So there's a lot of thinking like that into it, because all that matters is that you know which person's going to be closest to the answer, rather than having the right answer yourself, which makes for a bit of an interesting game. It's certainly a more interesting take on trivia-based games.
Yeah, it's not about knowing the right answer, it's about guessing from a selection
and playing the odds and stuff. It's certainly... You see, trivia games are one of those things where you'll always find you always know who's going to win come the end of the game, because there's usually one person that tends to know more about general knowledge than everyone else. That's one of the real downfalls about playing games like Trivial Pursuit and things like that. I hate playing them because they never change. There's never really any competition in them, because usually the person that knows the most is going to win every single time.
We've been doing headset quizzes at work whilst we've been working. Whoever's like manning the desk has been running a quiz. Because there's not many people in at the minute. And I've recently been described as not fun to do quizzes with.
But I mean, this is the problem, though, isn't it? With trivia-based games,
the last count, I think it must, we've been doing a quiz all day. I think I got 72, and the next closest was someone had 33.
Yeah,
and it was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, but I mean, this is the problem with trivia-based games.
Yeah, when you know weird bits of information, and you have something trivia-y, people thrive at different things, and sadly, it can make a game like that not fun.
But this actually finds a way around that
But
by having people that you can still benefit from knowing more than everyone else. There's no doubt about that at all. But it certainly evens things out by putting this gambling and putting money on element to it, which makes it far more fun. I definitely think I'm coming back to this one, I think.
Yeah, I'd like to give it another go.
Yeah. Okay, we had one more game that we played on our Zoom night, and that was Wavelength, that one person in our party really didn't like it.
I wish we could have recorded that.
I did really enjoy this. Yeah, I did really enjoy it.
Such a good flip out.
I think it would be better, I feel like we needed at least one more person really to play it. We kind of played... When I suggested playing this... I felt like we really needed one more person, because it's a discussion game. The idea is you're meant to discuss between your teams how close you think someone's going to get on this scale. So the idea is that you have this wheel. If you've seen the physical version of it, it's really, really nice. And it's covered. And somewhere on that wheel is a score. You've got a 4 section, a 3, a 2, and a 1. So... basically, you're trying to get the other team to adjust the pointer that's on this wheel and try and hit the point that they're trying to guide you towards. So they'll draw 2 cards and they'll have 2 different subjects on it. The one that I remember most is the one we didn't actually play, that sexy Pokemon to unsexy Pokemon.
Oh yeah, that would have been really
I wish
weird.
we'd played that one. I really wanted to play that one. I thought it was very funny.
Yeah.
It just would have been so strange.
So then, what was the one that you suggested, Ian, that would have been way over the sexy side?
Yeah.
There's a Pokemon that like people draw really lewd pictures of called Gardevoir, and it's just really upsettingly everywhere. If you look at like anything Pokemon on Google Images, it comes up with like a picture of someone railing one, and it's a bit upsetting.
Yeah. But it's a game where if you're lucky enough to have your score on either of the two extremes, then it's relatively easy to make suggestions of what you think it could be. The problem is when you're getting it more central, because you're suddenly trying to think what, like for example in that case, what Pokemon isn't sexy, but also isn't sexy. It's a really weird thought process you have to go through.
What Pokemon would you describe as the middle ground of sexy? In that,
exactly,
you probably wouldn't, but you probably could.
Yeah.
As opposed to Pokemon you definitely wouldn't, and Pokemon that you definitely would.
Yeah.
The implications are upsetting enough, let alone the actual discussion.
Yeah, but yeah, like I say, it's a conversational game. So the idea is you converse with your team, you adjust the thing to where you think it will probably be, and then you reveal it. And yes, you'll get people that are going to flip out when... And to be honest, I feel like the fun of the game is when people say, what the hell were you thinking? Of course, an almond Quazon isn't artisanal.
I thought you were what you talk about. Of course, Snorlax is a sexy Pokemon.
But, do you know what I mean? It's kind of like that. To me, that is the fun of the game. But at the same time, it felt like some people we were playing it with doesn't enjoy that aspect of it and found it more frustrating than anything else.
Mike was furious, wasn't he?
He really was.
It was
the almond Quazon bit. I think was the peak.
I know. Where he's
it really
throws the thing on the floor, takes his shirt off, launches it at the screen, and then just at the wall, and it's just kicking off in the background. So good.
But yeah, it's kind of like I say, I think your mileage will vary with Wavelength. I think. Like I say, I actually did still really enjoy the games we played of it, but I do feel as if we needed more people really playing, I think. But yeah, I don't know, what did you guys think of it?
It was probably my least favourite game of the night.
I think I would also agree,
but
I think.
Not in a horrible way, it just happened to have the disadvantage of being up against some pretty good games.
Yeah, I think that's the problem.
But yeah, it was good. I'd give it another go. I don't know if I'd want to play it for... The benefit of it is you can do like lots of short little games.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to play
definitely.
it for a really long time. Best of 5 is probably enough.
Yeah. Okay. Finally, to finish off what we've been playing, because we've almost been talking for an hour already, Ian, do you want to tell us a little bit about Mexican Train?
Phil has introduced me to Mexican Train, which is basically dominoes.
Okay.
The best way to describe it is you start with 12, I think is the highest number on a domino, right? Or on this one anyway, at least. And so you both start with a bunch of dominoes chips. What are they called, chips, you think? What would you describe them as?
I don't know, I
Tiles?
haven't played it.
Tiles?
What?
Yeah, tiles, I guess, with dominoes.
Yeah, I would probably say a domino. Well, a domino is a domino, isn't it?
Okay, you start with dominoes.
Yeah.
And you sort of end up playing your way through to try and clear as many of your dominoes as possible. And the idea is you have to clear it before all your opponents, and the numbers left on the dominoes you have left are totaled up to your score, and it's the lowest score wins. So you start with your first number is 12, so you have to have a domino with 12 on one side to start your train. And then as the game goes on, you go down and down and down. You have to clear it. There's a side train called the Mexican Train, which you can start at any time, and that's the sort of point of the game, is that you can use it to get rid of dominoes that you couldn't get rid of on your train, and anyone can use the Mexican train.
Right. Okay.
It's more complicated than I thought it'd be to describe, but the idea is get rid of all your dominoes. The first round you start with 12, second round you start with 11, like as the number at the top, and you play basically 12 rounds to try and get rid of all your tiles and win. But Phil's obsessed with it. But then I also think Phil's like a 90-year-old woman in a 27-year-old man's body. So
okay, right then. So that brings us to the end of what we've been playing. What have you guys been playing over Christmas? Please let us know down in the comments down below. But now I think it's time that we move on to some news.
News?
Yes, news. This is the news. Okay, so starting off, Slay the Spire is being turned into a board game. It's interesting, this one, because Slay the Spire is a a deck building game framed as a video game that's now being translated into a board game. It's interesting to see it go this way, because we've been talking about for ages video games getting converted into board games getting converted into video games, but this is the first one I can think of that's a board game style video game being turned into a board game. I mean, it's inevitable that it was going to get a physical release of it, but have either of you guys played or seen Slay the Spire at all?
I have not.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. It's essentially based as basically a knight entering a tower and trying to get to the top of it, but basically has to go through fights for a series of fights where you get to take more cards, make your deck better, and progress up this spire, basically. But yeah, it has been a bit of a sensation, I think, on Steam. If you look at the reviews and stuff, it's overwhelmingly positive, I think. The reviews for it, generally, a lot of people have been saying about how good it is. So it's going to be interesting to see how it translates into a board game. Interestingly, it is saying that it's going to be for between 1 and 4 players. Okay. And it's actually going to be a cooperative deck building adventure. So there's not going to be a race element to it or anything like that. But yeah, this one is one to keep an eye on, I think. Right. Next up, I thought I'd have a bit of a conversation with you guys about this one. This is to do with board game releases are probably going to be delayed this year in general. This story is coming through BoardGameQuest.com. They've got a really interesting in-depth article as to why there are going to be mass delays next year in terms of board games and stuff. Essentially, it is down to lack of spare shipping containers. But the problem, unfortunately, runs a little bit deeper than that. It's more of an issue to do with warehouse space and labour, basically. So, from what I understand from this article, there is a shortage of shipping containers, but the problem is that a lot of the warehouses, because they only have a limited amount of space, and there are obviously being delays because of a certain virus that has been affecting places and causing various lockdowns, it means that the amount of stock they're holding in a warehouse, they haven't got enough spaces in their yards to hold containers to be able to move the items that are ready to ship into in order to send out, basically. So they're saying everything is about 2 weeks behind at the moment, which is a bit of a shame. This is something that obviously isn't just impacting the board game world, though. This is going to impact everything, because everything comes from China. I think they said it really only got bad in about October last year. That's when things really started to get bad in terms of falling behind and stuff. It's just interesting to note because the guy that writes the article here says he talked to various sources, and it's interesting to see how many of the sources actually say, we don't quite know why it's fallen so far behind, but one or two have been able to shed a little more light on the fact that basically there's been a ripple effect. I mean, this was expected, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm not at all surprised, personally.
Yeah, I mean, it's more or less one of these things that's now getting confirmed. It's funny because it actually says, like I say, I'm if anything a little surprised that it only took until about October last year for things to really fall behind. I would have thought it would have been falling behind way before then, but I'm not quite sure what China's lockdown protocol's been, like how much they've been locked down and stuff like that, I suppose.
I don't really know either, to be honest.
I know initially they were, but whether or not that's still going on. But like, I think the issue is there's so much stuff, like you say, isn't it? So you've noticed it with a load of little things that just haven't been in stock for ages.
Bear in mind that I think... So one of the things, though, that I have noticed in the UK, especially here, more so than the rest of the world, is the lack of stock we're getting in. And I don't think this is purely down to COVID. I hate to say this because I can imagine the kind of comments we could get for this as well. Brexit is affecting us as well, I think.
What are you talking about? It's only got positives.
Of course it does.
I haven't at all had to pay ridiculous import fees for things that I shouldn't have to pay import fees for.
Yeah, I've had a couple of those as well.
That's the thing. Most of the things you have bought or whatever at any point, they've been okay, but now it's just like, is it worth the...
So one of the things I will say here...
That now we get to set our own rules. That are the same as the previous rules.
Oh, lovely. Yeah. And pay all that beautiful import.
I'm so happy about this.
But, I mean, you do look like... For example, actually, Deception Murder in Hong Kong is one of these examples I can use. It's in stock in just about every single country in the world but the UK. Now, it's like... And you can't find it in any of them. It's now got... Like, before Brexit as well, I would be willing to pay extra for shipping to get something in. But one of the things right now is we actually owe our patrons a review of Far Away, and I can get hold of it by getting it imported from somewhere else, but the cost of it becomes absolutely astronomical, and I just can't. I can't justify it, really, the amount that I'd have to spend to get it here. Essentially, delivery is going to end up costing more than the actual item itself. So it's
crazy,
just not going to happen. It's just a case of waiting until it becomes available in the UK again. By all means, if someone does know a good way of getting across, by all means, get in touch with us, because I would love to be able to get a hold of it and start doing our review of that one. But yeah, I've like I say, I feel like judging it from this country, we've probably got it worse than most other countries just because of the other situations that are going on politically in this country, on top of the delays in delivery due to COVID and stuff like that. The example they do use on here is apparently all the Marvel Champions releases have been pushed back. I think they promised originally that they'd be doing monthly releases for
that was
Marvel
the original
Champions,
thing.
but unfortunately it's all gone wrong now due to these problems, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I know initially it was meant to be one every month and then a big one, and that was the road plan, but I guess that's just, that is completely out the window. I imagine it's going to affect a lot of Fantasy Flight stuff.
Yeah, I imagine so. But anyway, whilst we're talking about Marvel, there is some positive. So if you've been kind of down about not being able to get your new Marvel Champions releases, there is hope on the horizon, because Unmatched have announced a set of Marvel collaborations. So they've got a couple of really interesting looking sets here. Daryl, I know you're a big Unmatched player, but they've got 2 coming out. They've got
Yeah,
Redemption Row
right.
and Hell's Kitchen. In Redemption,
There's 4.
in Redemption
I think there's
Row,
4.
no, there's only 3 in each of these.
No, there's 4.
So, huh?
They're bringing out 4.
Oh right, yeah. Wait, there's 4 different Marvel releases. I thought there was just
Redemption
Hell's
Row,
Kitchen and
Hell's
Redemption
Kitchen,
Row.
Team Spirit, and For King and Country.
Oh, they're coming. I think. Oh, yeah, it is all out in one lot. Oh well. The ones they've got on here anyway. Redemption Row. You've got Luke Cage, Ghost Rider, and Moon Knight. And the Hell's Kitchen one is Daredevil, Elektra, and Bullseye. The other 2 that you have here, the Teen Spirit one is Miss Marvel, Squirrel Girl, and Cloak and Dagger. And for King and Country, Black Widow, Black Panther, and Winter Soldier. Wow.
Not gonna lie, the first 2, for me, I mean the other ones sound okay, but the first 2, just purely based on the 3 characters in each, I think they'd be incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a weird thing where I've got a load of Moon Knight comics. So Moon Knight being in that Redemption Row one is very appealing, but like the Daredevil one is the one that jumps out the Hell's Kitchen one. With Daredevil, Elektra, and Bullseye. That looks awesome.
The only thing I'm kind of interested about that they've said in this article, up until now, it's always been 4-player sets or 2-player sets.
Yeah.
They've said here that the newer ones are all going to be 3-player ones. Well, 3 character ones. So whether or not they'll be doing a 3-player version. But the only thing what was always really good about the whole thing to do with Unmatched was you can just swap in and out different characters and play them how you will. It was a bit similar to... Is it Dice Throne?
Yeah.
Where you could basically play any character versus any character, and it makes it a bit more of a kind of interesting concept. So if you want to play Daredevil versus Beowulf, for instance, you can. And I think that's one of the cool things about it. Prior to the podcast, though, me and Steve were saying, there's not been a lot of... It's very hard to get releases. Like, me and him were talking about how... I didn't even know there was a Buffy the Vampire Slayer version coming out in like the next couple of months kind of thing. Which looks really cool. But some of the other sort of 2-player versions, you just can't seem to get hold of. Like, there's a Jurassic Park one where you're playing as either 3 raptors or I don't know what his name is, but the one that goes Clever Girl.
Oh, wow. I want to
play that. So you play as him versus 3 raptors, which I think is really cool. There was was it the Fog one?
Cobblestone and Fog,
which is like a kind of
one,
which looks really cool. Another sort of 4-player set. Again, can't find it. Just doesn't seem to. It's crazy how very little of these you can find, and yet they're obviously continuing supporting it, which is quite nice.
But what's a little bit worrying is a lot of the old sets are actually disappearing off storefronts altogether, which suggests that they're out of print, which is a real shame, really, because I mean, I for one, I've really been thinking about buying a box for myself, despite the fact that I know you've obviously got it, Daryl. So
so I managed to get hold of the original, the Bruce Lee one, the single player figure, and I also got the Robin Hood versus Bigfoot. Which is, again, you can be played as a 2-player or mix and match, but I wasn't aware that the others were so hard to get hold of, and I probably would have kept up with it because I do actually really like the models, I love the artwork, the poster style of it, and the game's really simple to play.
Yeah, I mean, I do hope that the old sets aren't out of print.
So
because
do I.
I think the problem is that a lot of the appeal of this game is the idea of you being able to mix and match and being able to set up fights between people that you wouldn't normally be able to see duke it out with one another. So the idea that they go out of print is a bit unfortunate. I mean, I understand that obviously production costs obviously don't allow it if the demand isn't there, but I feel like the demand is there for these. I mean, like I said, I went off looking for them not long ago and then found that every set was out of stock everywhere, and the ones that interest me that are perhaps a bit older I can't get hold of anymore. That's a bit of a shame. But, it makes me want to get this Daredevil one as soon as possible. When
that's the thing.
I feel like that's the one that I really want to give a try.
I mean, I'm really trying hard to get the Jurassic Park one. I don't mind. They've only just released apparently one a little while back with the Beowulf versus Red Riding Hood, which is kind of cool. But I really want the Raptors to fight against King Arthur or Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee versus Raptors is incredible. That's a great concept. just Bruce Lee fighting 3 raptors. Why not?
It is, yeah. Anyway,
that'd be such a good film.
That is everything that we've got from the news this time around. We don't have an audience question this week, but we would really like to hear from you if you've got a question you would like to ask us. You can do by sending us your questions to everybodydiceshow@gmail.com. It's all changed. But yeah, please do. It doesn't even have to be about board games. Send us anything and we'll answer it on the next podcast. I think it's time we tucked into a big topic.
Oh, yummy.
I was going to say, that probably does make it sound like a chocolate bar.
They
That
are,
just a massive...
As far as topics
Huge
go,
one.
they're super overrated, right?
Are they overrated? Are they actually overrated though? Because I feel like no one rates them.
No, I was going to say topic bars are like I would say they're the ones that I honestly feel like if they still exist, why?
I mean, you eat Bounty, so if you feel that way, then...
No, Bounties are a substantial chocolate bar, and I love the fact that whenever the celebrations pop out, everyone leaves them and I go in for the kill. Unfortunately, I found out that someone else on work does the exact same thing, and there is becoming a little bit of an issue with this.
It's a race for the bounty.
Pretty much, yeah, because everyone leaves them because they're like, bounty, and I'm like, clean
who
up.
Is the bounty eater?
It's Simon.
Disgusting.
Oh,
So yeah, so Simon's.
I
Like,
mean,
I
I
love a
eat
bounty.
bounties as well. It's just
but
like
it's
they're not
weird.
what I'd go for necessarily.
Here's the
we
deal,
do.
right? You can have a bounty, right?
Oh, I love it. Yeah, go on. Go on.
If you were
I'm done.
starving to death, you could probably eat a bounty. I could probably muster the strength to eat
It's
a
not.
bounty.
It's not. It's
Wow,
not that
okay.
bad. It's so good.
They're like just average.
Oh, the chocolate, the coconut. Oh, and the best part is those ones you get at like road service stations where there's like a free pack within like one. You know, like the really long ones. One of them, fantastic. 3 little bars. Oh, get in my
I just
stomach.
don't think there's anything about a bounty.
Look,
That's
all I'm
better
saying.
than an equivalent.
Okay. All I'm saying is they kept it in the celebrations box. All right. Other stuff has come. Other stuff has gone.
I just
I.e., the
think
topic apparently had been
coconut
replaced.
Must be cheap.
It's just good, man. It's good for you.
Have you noticed there's more of them in there than anything else?
Yeah, which is perfect.
They
They're appealing
bulk
to
it
me.
out. Bulk it
Yeah,
out.
I'm happy with that.
Okay, so believe it or not, the big topic this time around is not
about bounties.
what is your opinion on the chocolate bounty bar?
Please send them in though, because like I want to see if there's going to be if
Please
there's
send
others
in
out
your
there.
leftover bounty chocolate.
Oh god. Oh yeah, just not the red packet if that still exists. I don't really like that one. But thank you.
what, the dark chocolate one?
Yeah, I'm not a massive fan of dark chocolate. I prefer the normal milk one.
Wow, I feel like that's the only part of it that I would consider redeemable.
Oh no, it's the milk chocolate.
Anyway.
Wait. What if they did a white chocolate? What if they did a white chocolate one?
That is... Oh, that would be horrible.
I
Anyway,
reckon it'd be beautiful.
That's it. So, our big topic, not that, our big topic is actually chosen by our patrons, which you can actually find over at patreon.com/everybodydice, where they get to choose out of 3 topics every month as to what we talk about on this podcast. Every other week. Okay. So the 3 options they had this time around was, how does your top 50 look if ordered by Board Game Geek Rank? So after we did our top 50 last week, I compared it to how it would be rearranged if we ordered it all by Board Game Geek Rank. There was a couple of really interesting things on there, but it's not what's been chosen. The other one was, what were your favourite games of 2020? Really glad they didn't choose that, because we played almost nothing from 2020, so that would have been interesting to talk about. But our winner this month, I've done it again, it's this week. The winner this week. No, I'm not alright, I've been indoors too long. But our winner is, do you have any board game related New Year's resolutions? I think I've already kind of alluded to one of mine, because I do want to try and play more Zoom games over Zoom. Well, just online in general. Get back to playing some games with people, playing online, because we haven't really been doing it very often. We've had like 1 or 2 sessions, but really not much at all. But it looks like we're still in for staying indoors for a little while yet. So I actually noticed today there was a bit of argument surrounding the UK Game Expo that's penciled in for June, July this year. I've noticed there are some people that are saying that it's reckless and they shouldn't be doing it, because at the moment it looks as if we're not, like, the mass rollout of the vaccine isn't going to be available in this country until autumn now, I believe. So yeah, I did just notice, just in a board game related thing, yeah, there has been a bit of controversy surrounding it. I know one of the things that got brought up was even the people that are vaccinated can still carry it and can still spread it to other people. Yeah, so if everyone's not vaccinated, unless everyone that goes is vaccinated, it could be a disaster waiting to happen. So that's interesting to see. Like they said, they actually admitted it could still be called off this year, because at the moment, like they say, they don't know whether they are actually going to be able to run it still at the moment. But unfortunately, the NEC, where they hold it in Birmingham, is fully booked up for the rest of the year, so it kind of like clashes. So they said they said they can't move it this year. It's a case of if they can't do it where they've got their slot now, then it's not happening at all this year. But anyway, like I said, it means we're all going to be outside of one another's households for a bit longer yet. So I just want to try and get into the routine of playing more games online, I think. It worked really well, I think, when we tried it the other day. We found enough different games to be able to play. I mean, largely without something like Tabletop Simulator, you are a little bit limited to party games and stuff like that. However, I did find one resource, because I think one of the main issues I have is I don't want to be in a position where I say, hey guys, come and play some games with us if you're willing to spend this much money to buy these things in order to be able to play online. I don't think that's very fair on anyone, because you start excluding people that can't necessarily afford to do that. But I did find one kind of cool resource that I'll put in the, again, where I put the links to the games that we played the other day on Zoom in the comments down below. I'll also put links to this site called www.tabletopia.com. I think it was Tabletopia. Essentially, it's Board Game Simulator, but something you can play in your browser. So you don't need to download anything. It is Tabletopia. You don't need to download anything. It may wear a bit on maybe some old computers and stuff like that, but generally I think it should play on whatever computer you've got, really. Like I say, it doesn't require you purchasing anything. It does have a couple of premium games on there that you do have to pay for and upgrade to a pro account, but generally most things on there are available. So there's no reason why we can't get together and play games online. Yeah, that's really my first board game New Year's resolution, I feel. But I have got one more, but I thought I'd ask you guys first whether there's anything you can think of.
No.
No.
I feel like every year I do this, but I get a bit of New Year, New Army syndrome.
No, right.
And I always think, I'd like to start yet another little army of something. But this year I'm trying to stop myself from doing New Year, New Army. So the Instagram hasn't helped, because it's a constant source of inspiration for stuff that I want to do. But I just want to focus on my clones, to be honest.
Okay.
I've got my my clone army for Legion, and I don't have a lot left to paint, but I should really do that before looking at anything else. I do constantly get the ringing call of addiction. It's like a gong calling out to me. I look through the mist, and with confusion, I grasp at what's in the air hanging in front of me, and when I look in my hands, it's just a tattered bit of cloth with the Games Workshop symbol in it. and I look up to the sky and I think, why? And I feel obliged to seek out a Games Workshop.
So would you actually say that your New Year's resolution then is to not start a new army?
Yes, that's what the point is. Yeah. It's
Okay.
try and avoid the urge to do New Year, New Army, which is something that Games Workshop tend to push every year. It's genuinely something they put on like their accounts and stuff. So New Year, New Army.
Oh Christ!
It's a thing they do. But I don't want to do New Year, New Army. And if I do, I need it to be something really special that I'm actually going to finish. Because I did New Year, New Army last time, and it was the Elysian Drop Troop style Imperial Guard regiment, and I did the 4 Valkyries, and then got Painter's Fatigue. And I've got all the infantry still left to paint. And then I sort of did the clones, and I've got 5 clones left to paint, and I've got 4 Wookiees I got for Christmas, and a Walker that I need to paint, and that's it. And I feel like that's finishable without any issues. So I kind of want to do that, and then from there I can look at my next project. I mean, at the minute I'm kind of projected out with my armor that I'm making, but still, that's the key: is finish what I'm doing, for goodness sake.
All right, Daryl.
Yeah, I would say probably to hold back on certain things.
Okay.
With games, there's a couple of games that I like the look of, but the only thing is, I've done it in the past where I've bought a few of them and I've just never got around to playing them. And to be honest with you, as soon as Entoyment reopens back for its bring and buy sales, I'm shifting them. And this is the problem. There's a lot of stuff that looks really cool. Like the other day, I think you tagged us in it, didn't you, Ian? The new is it Parabellum? New Parabellum stuff. I know originally when we looked at the Eurogamer, they had some really cool expansions there, which they didn't actually have yet, and those Nordic men look really, really cool. And I just was thinking, like, we've never played it. Have you finished yours? Didn't you building yours, Steve?
I did not know.
Did you not know?
I finished building all of one army, and I got about halfway through the other.
So this was the problem. I think the models are really nice and everything like that, but it was just, it's one of those things. And I was looking at like the fact we've got, so they're releasing a new faction for A Song of Ice and Fire. A Song of Ice and Fire. A Song of Ice and Fire. Even.
I know what you mean.
They're bringing out the Greyjoys, so there's going to be like it's kind of basically a pirate group, which would be really, really nice. And again, I was like, that would be really, really cool. But again, we haven't played that in a long time. So it's that kind of thing, isn't it? It's like the same as Ian a little bit, New Army kind of thing. But I think with me, it's just going to be a case of trying to like chill out a bit more on some of the board games that I initially like the look of, and then maybe don't follow through with, or none of us really play, or it's mainly miniatures ones actually.
Yeah.
No more miniatures games.
I'm gonna break this trend of not buying stuff and say that I need to buy more. So one of the things which I was looking at though, now this is kind of a thing that I want to improve on a bit, is I've noticed through going through our top 50 and comparing it to the Board Game Geek, even top 200 I went through, I've actually only played about a third of those games. Really not very many at all. So I want to try and make a conceited effort, if not to buy, but at least to play as many of those top 200 games as possible. Because I do feel like, although I agree with what a lot of people say, in that not everything that's on that top 100 list is going to appeal to everyone. At the same time, there's quite a lot of important games on there that I haven't tried. So, like, I made a couple of purchases the other day. I bought Sagrada, Azul, Brass Birmingham, Tzolk'in, and Cartographers with the idea that I want to play them fairly soon, and try and play more of these games that are in the upper echelon of games on the Board Game Geek Top 100. Because the thing that is quite easy to forget is that is a cumulative gaming chart. That's not one or two people making the list of the top 100 games or whatever. It's a mix of critic score, of player reviews, all things like that. It is somewhat skewed by certain licenses and things like that. But in general, it's kind of like the go-to. Like, there's some things which I don't have to worry about. Like, for example, Pandemic Legacy Season 1 and 2 and 0 that have just come out are all around that kind of like top area, and I kind of feel like, okay, really I only need to play one of those, really, or something like that, you know? Because I think Pandemic Legacy is like, put it this way, out of the top 3 on Board Game Geek at the moment, I've only played one of them, which is Gloomhaven. I've not played Pandemic Legacy Season 1, and I've not played Brass Birmingham. So I've bought Brass Birmingham to somewhat solve that, and I am on the lookout when it gets cheap enough to get one of the Pandemic Legacy games, but I'm only going to get one of them, and I'm quite interested in Season 0, and I think I've seen it come down as much as £55 at the moment, so it is starting to get to that mark where it's a bit more affordable from the £70 that it was originally. So yeah, there's a few things that I'm keeping an eye on. I think I'm a little more put off by the Pandemic Legacy one, simply because it's another Legacy game that's going to take a lot to play. So it's not one of those ones that's a priority on my list, but definitely there's stuff there that I want to look at. I think as well there are a couple of games that I want you guys to play as well. You know, like we've talked about things like Mysterium, the full fat Mysterium version.
Full fat. Not that Diet
and
Coke.
Like, yeah, and like the I think we said Ticket to Ride, none of you guys have played as well, and
never.
stuff like that. So there's a couple of like classic games that I'll probably try and get you guys to play once we can all get in a room together again. But yeah,
I would like to play a game I've just discovered.
Yeah.
Night of the Living Dead, a Zombicide standalone game.
It's going to be Zombicide.
Well, apparently it is Zombicide, but it's based on the Night of the Living Dead and all the characters from the Night of the Living Dead.
But it's going to be Zombicide.
Yeah, 100%.
And I feel like these are the kind of traps that I'm trying not to fall into.
This is the problem, but I've seen it now, and someone's like done some really nice inking on the figures to make them like the black and white silhouette type style. Okay, I'm going to get off this now. Right.
Okay, fair enough.
New year, new army.
No, it's not a new army.
Anyway, have any of you guys got any New Year's resolutions? Again, please do let us know in the comments down below. But that is it for this episode of the podcast. Thank you very much for joining us. If you'd like to follow us on social medias, you can at Everybody Dice on Twitter and at Everybody Dice Show on Instagram. If you would like to follow our Facebook page, you can also find that at facebook.com/Everybody Dice. And please do go over to the Twitch channel as well, twitch.tv/Everybody Dice, and I promise you we'll be doing something with that fairly soon. If you would like to perhaps throw a couple of bucks our way, you can do on Patreon, on patreon.com/Everybody Dice, and you can help shape some of our content, like this podcast here, which was chosen by our wonderful patrons. You also get access to like our review poll as well, and our audio newsletter that we do every month as well. Apart from that, thank you very much for joining us. Please do like, share, and if you haven't already, subscribe. And there should be some videos somewhere over here right now on screen. Please do give one of those a click as well. But that's it from us this time. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Good night.
Baby.
Bye.